There it is. Episode 32, Whiteboard Sessions podcast. Been another minute again. I think last time we said that too, just because there was
it was busy,
snowstorm and busy. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Right, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, for sure. So we've had a pretty good response on topics related to relationships.
Yeah. Yep.
Views are up. We've had people, share that they're using some of that stuff. So that's topic today.
Yes. And why it's so important to businesses that's most things revolve around it. And that's why it's a key kind of focus to our business. I mean, that's what the kind of motto, tagline, whatever you want to call it, is that every, now I'm like, hit him with it. Cover me. At the heart of every business is relationships. Yes. There we go. Gosh, I was fumbling over which.
Right.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Great way to start the podcast. Welcome.
I don't want to pass over that. At the heart of every business is relationships, and that's why at this point into this whole podcast thing and all this social media, you might be sitting there thinking, why are these guys still talking about relationships? Because that's all there is.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of people that are listening to this or watching this, they might be thinking like, oh, Steve and Adam with the relationship thing again, and it's too soft. We need something more, tangible. We need to talk about analytics and, what are some new tips and tricks for sales processes, and how do we get more revenue, and how do we track it, and what's some good creative, tips and things like that. And it's like, that's all good, but that all comes secondary to it, and we're going to explain why.
We go so far even to say, and this popped up at an accounting firm a few years ago, where they're, if you haven't heard, accountants are really into numbers.
Yeah.
and what they measure, all of the numbers that are on financials are a scorecard. In our opinion, in our experience, our passionate opinion, it's a scorecard of the quality of relationships, the quality of the relationships internally, between leaders and followers. It's a scorecard of the relationships between the business and their customers.
Yep.
Salespeople, when you're selling, all of those things have to do with relationships. And so if you're sitting there wondering or doubting, or maybe even, just kind of thinking, are relationships really that essential? This podcast is about hell yes, it is.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Look no further.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, even some of the new things that are coming out, like customer experience, and when you talk about customer advocacy and loyalty and all those things, well, yeah, they all revolve around business. Or relationships. So you can have the best creative, the best analytics, you can have the best this and that, but one of the reasons you're going to have the best of what those provide is because of the relationship. So if you have the best creative and then you end up having the best revenue, it's because you have really good relationships with your customers, and your leaders have good relationships with your employees, and so on and so forth. So let's kind of dive into some of that, or maybe we should define.
Well, yeah, and I think you're picking up on a good thing just at the end there, that customer experience thing and all, the creative and so on and so forth. When you have that stuff in marketing, and this translates to some of the leadership and the sales things as well, but part of having good relationships, as we talk about passionately, is really understanding the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
Being able to engage with them in meaningful ways, not manufactured ways, not just telling them what you think that they want to hear, but truly understanding. You mentioned, customer experience, and in the last, year and a half, we have helped some companies differentiate the difference between customer service, which is what you provide. It might be a process or a methodology. Customer experience is actually, you speak to this. Don't you think that is a measurable as far as the quality of the relationship from the customer's perspective?
Yeah. That's customer experience is what's received.
Yeah.
And so exactly. So when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to push out this really great creative, or we have the best product or anything like that. Well, yeah, you could, but if you have a terrible relationship, or you're just constantly pushing sales, like we used to work for, employers that would do that as well. Yeah. And it's a sale. Well, that's very short-term, short-sighted vision on how to do that. But if you harness a good relationship with a good community, yeah, it's going to be totally, that customer experience is going to be so much better. You're caring about how you're solving the problem that they have, or a need that they have, or whatever it may be, and thinking long term. And if something comes up, even from this is more customer service, but customer service is part of the customer experience. if something happens throughout that journey that they have with your brand, that you make it right, and that,
Yes.
all those good things, or maybe you have a good enough relationship internally with your teams
Yes.
to foresee some of this stuff
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
So you can avoid some of those negative experiences that you might encounter with a customer.
Right. So you just said something that I think is very, very valuable. And so when Adam's saying sale, in the old days, and some people are still living in the old days, when they want to sell more, they will just say, we're having a sale on this, which is a push, and it's all about the price, and it's very transactional. And there are businesses that will still do it. We've got this on sale, this on sale. Well, I think most people know that is based on what the merchant or the company has to offer that they want to get rid of.
Yeah.
When you look at, and you and I haven't talked about this, but when you look at what Amazon does, Amazon doesn't feed you deals.
Yeah.
What do they feed you? They feed you other things that they think you'll like, because just like Google and everybody else, they're so good at understanding you and knowing what you like, and they feed you things where people are like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
I like Amazon because I wonder what they're going to offer me next.
I feel like they know me, and they
Yes.
know my interests and
they
hobbies
do.
and stuff.
Right.
And not only do they feed you that in the terms of like the physical products, but then they feed you expedited shipping.
Right.
They feed you easy returns.
Yes.
They make your life easy,
Yes.
which is a good experience. And so if we one of the things I was going to mention earlier, which I want to pivot to, is back to kind of the creative thing, just to pick that one out of the, I mean, there's probably tens of hundreds of examples we could give on this, but in terms of good relationships internally to start it, to make sure your external is good, take like a creative team or a sales team or anything like that. Your team is going to need space, grace, capacity, all of that stuff to be able to operate and do their job well. Yeah. If you have a terrible relationship with your employees, if you're a leader, or if you're in a team and you have a tough relationship with another teammate or something, and I'll just stick with the leader to employee example for now. If you're not giving them the time to be creative or the space to, flex their creative muscle a little bit, they're not going to feel fulfilled. They're not going to be able to probably give you the best product because they don't have the time or the space to do it. Right. So if you build that internal culture where that relationship is super strong, not only our employees are going to be like good advocates and cheerleaders for your business, but they're also going to provide you the best possible product that their job can fulfill for that customer in the end. And then with that, you get a better serving to give to the customer, which will harness that relationship too. So when you boil it all down, there's so many areas of business that are based on relationships, and that's why we talk about this kind of thing.
Is this too corny to say that just on what you just said it as you're talking there? And I don't know whose quote this is. The quote is, "Love requires freedom."
Okay.
That if you really love somebody, it's not the
set them free,
and blah, blah. But when you're actively with them, when you're in a marriage, when you have kids, when you have employees, when you have customers, that relationship, I'm changing the quote now, relationships require freedom. And what you just described is time and space.
Yep.
Giving people the time to, both parties actually in a relationship to do whatever they need to do. But in some cases, many cases, it requires space for each individual or each group, each party to be who they truly are.
Yep, exactly.
And so I think that's a great point.
And space could mean just a chunk of time. Space could mean an open ear if you're just saying, hey, how's your day going? Or, hey, what can I provide for you to do your job better, or to take this off your plate, or what's something you don't like doing or want to do more of? That's space too, or that's time too. I mean, there's just
space to innovate, space to create, space to be, their own person and unique. Obviously, post-COVID here, there's a healthy amount of space being demanded to work from different spaces, and that's a whole nother thing.
So here's another example, and this is more of an obvious one, but maybe sometimes people are just like, oh yeah, duh, that's whatever. But sales functions, sales teams, that is all about the relationship with your customer. Now, if you're if you're a company that has a sales function that cold calls or cold visits or things like that, you're trying to build relationships because you want to close them as a customer.
Right.
If you're, a business or company that doesn't have a traditional or classic sales function, there's still an aspect of sales in your business.
Yes.
And sales means being able to, well, you can probably define it better than me, but, just in terms of this conversation, providing a service or product to a customer that needs it,
Yes.
to boil it way down. So you want that relationship. You want to be able to give something that they need and that they're going to take from you, and that they're, the give and take
Right.
of a very basic, very black and white boiled down relationship. But every aspect is,
Yes.
like you said to start this too, accounting. I mean, there's no area of business that I think personally doesn't revolve around relationships at its core. And that's what can make
Yes.
those functions better.
So two things to build off that. I think many people are familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages. And so in our personal relationships, family, marriages, things like that, understanding what another person's primary or preferred language is, touch, time, gifts, service, words, I think those are the 5. It's important to speak their language. It shows that you care and that you understand them and so on and so forth. From the sales standpoint, there's another kind of love languages things that we use in our business all the time, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That when people are buying or when people are operating, there's 5 levels. The baseline is survival, and then you move up to security, and then belonging, and then importance, and then that top piece is being self-actualized.
Mm-hmm.
And so within relationships, whether they're personal or professional, understanding the 5 love languages, which is about communication, but then that psychological mindset, which has to do with Maslow. Hopefully this isn't getting too deep, but this is absolutely why the soft skill business that we do, we try to take the science, we try to apply processes. It's not just this vague, ambiguous thing. We're applying this stuff that is tangible to help people build more solid relationships between their leaders and their employees, knowing that when you do that, the odds of those employees building better relationships with the customers through sales and through customer service and customer experience goes way up.
Exactly.
And then if you take care of the whole person, right, if you help people build, strengthen, and maintain those relationships outside of the office, quote unquote, by the time they get into the office, those outside relationships leave them the opportunity to be more focused, more healthy, more driven.
Yeah, a lot. That's a really great point. One of the things I try to use is just that we essentially operationalize soft skills. We live at the intersection where soft skills meets hard skills.
Right.
It's great. You can have all the skill in the world to have a hard skill to be able to, again, provide that, video content or that analytic to the business to be able to make data-driven or data-informed decisions.
Yes.
But to operationalize soft skills, to bring them to meet the hard skills is, I think, and I think you would agree, where the real magic happens. Because, and I'm not taking any shots here because I like these people too, but you look at some social media influencers. Everybody knows Simon Sinek. Everybody knows people like that. Really great people. Jay Shetty. Even great marketing people.
Is his new book out? Shetty?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
Okay.
And I'll just use Simon Sinek because he's probably the most well-known. He's really great. He does really great stuff and he has really great ideas. But one of the things for me that falls flat is just the way to operationalize those things. You can have really great thoughts and say some really great, saying on Instagram or give a really good TED Talk on it. But people, much like you're listening to this, are wanting to listen and tune into something to understand how to apply that to their business in an actual real life manner.
Yes.
And that's what we do.
Yes. Yeah, just picking up on that. By operationalize, when a married couple in crisis goes to a marriage counselor, that is reactive operationalizing of focusing on relationships.
Yeah.
That marriage counselor focuses those two people on repair, on recovery, on managing the crisis. Just think if people took more time to operationalize the strengthening.
Yes.
Rather than the repairing. And I don't think I need to make this leap, but I'm going to. Think about your business life. Think of whatever you're doing in business. How much operationalizing are you doing week in and week out, month in and month out, to build and strengthen the relationships? Are you getting people involved that have experience, that have know-how, that have some wisdom to help you operationalize the relationships wherever they're at right now, to help them get to where ideally you would want them? And so, we had a situation a couple weeks ago, and I'm not trying to brag. This is just, but in Forest Lake, we spent about an hour and a half with the employees, and then we debriefed the next day. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
And that next day, we're sitting with the owner of the business, and we've been working with this guy for like over a year.
Yeah.
Trying to get in, and earn trust, and so on and so forth. And after an hour and a half with his employees, he's got his hand and his head on the table, and he's like, I just don't get it. He said, you guys spent like an hour and a half with our employees, and you got them pegged. Every single one of them, you understand them. Well, I mean, that makes my heart full, because it's like, okay, wonderful. He feels understood. I'm guessing he knows that right. They feel well, and I think we got text, right?
Yeah.
We got text messages from people.
Yep,
You did.
Yep.
So that's the thing, gang. When people feel understood, just the opportunity to do the hardcore business things when the relationships are rock solid, and that's really what we're driving at
exactly
with this conversation.
And all those key aspects of your business. I mean, frankly, it's involved in the DNA of the business, as cheesy as that sounds, but it really is. Everywhere you look, there's relationships in business. And so be proactive with it. Really look intrinsically on that too. I think, it's just one of those things. Some people might think relationships are fluffy, but if you look at it from, maybe it's just semantics about how you look at it. If you look at team building and things like that, it's like continuing education for soft skills. It's like,
sure. Well, and I think you made a great point earlier. The time and space, it's really important. We say a lot when we work with people that life's greatest joys and pains are centered around our relationships, and we need to take the time to appreciate them when we have them, build them, and make the space in our day-to-day to focus on those and make them a priority.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think. If there's something with relationships that you guys want to see, let us know. We'll talk about it. We got a couple shorts too on Instagram that talk about relationships too, that kind of pull out different tidbits and go from there. So
It's dead.
episode 32, if it's not dead, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.